welcome everyone. This is this week's 100 Days of No Code Expert AMA. Really excited to be here with Thunkable to hear more about the tool, learn more about it, and get under the bonnet of it to see what's possible. And yeah, just really excited to see a demo, hopefully a live build within that, and then also hear your questions afterwards. To hear more about the tool. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Thunkable expert in-house and yeah, just really excited for this one. So thanks so much for coming along.
Brilliant. Cheers. Thanks a million, Max. Thanks for having us on the show this week. Really excited to kind of show you what's happening in Thunkable. Just give a shout really quickly if you can see the slides and if they're visible.
All good. All good.
Awesome. So I have a couple of quick slides just to introduce myself and then to talk about Thunkable, how it's developed through the last couple of years. And then we're going to jump in and we're going to do a live demo. So fingers crossed that everything goes well there. And once we finish the demo, we're going to open it up for questions from the audience, from the participants. And I have two colleagues here, John V from our engineering team and Gautam from our creator success team. So feel free to throw your most difficult and awkward questions at them. And yeah, I'll take all the soft ones. Yeah, that'll be great. So cool, just to, if I'm on the right slide here. Yeah, this is me. I'm Donal. So my kind of route into the company, my own background is kind of from a slightly more technical background. I would have read engineering at university here in Dublin. And also, just for a little bit of context, I would also been heavily involved in the kind of sporting community in a voluntary capacity back here from the age of maybe like 14 or 15 or something. So not just in a coaching and a participation perspective as well, but also in the administration. So at like a county level and at provincial level. And there was a great kind of synergy, I suppose, for want of a better word, where people were sharing ideas and sharing tips and stuff at all these different levels. And so then when I joined the team in 2017, I'd been using the platform, I guess, and I'd been working in a teaching and an education capacity with it for quite a while, for a couple of years at that stage, and with similar tools as well. And initially it was just in a very kind of narrow role, just to do a troubleshooting and a support type jobs that needed to be done there. But one thing that really I threw myself into, I suppose, was the community that we had. And like I say, community had always been kind of quite an important thing to me. So to find the marriage of these two things, where it was like people with technical problems and technical questions, and they were also sharing and contributing to everybody's kind of knowledge. And it's similar in a way, I think, to what's going on with the no code kind of Twitter community as well at the moment, where people are sharing, and to an extent they're building in public, as they're saying, that you're showing what's happening, and yeah, reaching out for help, and people are really supportive of one another there. Yeah, so then I've been working in my current role then as the head of creator success since the beginning of 2019, building out our team. So there's a support element to that as well. Helping people with whatever it is that they're stuck with. So that could be, let's say, designing the user interface of their app, trying to figure out what that looks like. It could be the development of the logic within their app. So getting things to work, getting things to function the way people want them to function. But it could also be then the deployment. So how do people get their apps onto the App Store, get them published, get them into the hands of their users. So the yeah, there's also a documentation element to that as well. So as new components are released, and we're releasing new components now at a pretty high velocity, they all need to be documented. And then, yeah, there's an education side to it as well, and a training side where we're maybe writing tutorials for our community, for our blog, or indeed just creating videos for YouTube so that our users can connect with us there as well. Yeah, so that's just me in a nutshell in a minute or two. In terms of the talk today, then, I want to run through really quickly the company, where it's come from and where we are at the moment. And then you might have some questions about where we're going in the future. Talk about the platform itself, some of the features and the functionality that are in it, and then do that quick demo before opening it up for other questions. Yeah, so part one here is just to go through Thunkable as a company. Let's just run through it really quickly. Initially, we would have started off, founded in the end of 2015, December 2015, and our first product was Android only. And it was very, very popular in terms of like adoption with users because it featured material design, so the kind of the design language of Android. And people liked the fact that when they downloaded their apps and they ran them on their device, they looked really, really nice. There was a really good looking user interface there, and it was really easy to create. Then kind of another feature, I suppose, that people liked about this initial platform that we had was the projects page. We made it much easier then to manage our projects. They were all sorted in nice cards and they were tiled across the page. A huge thing for a lot of people was our AdMob integration. So this meant that people who were putting in time and energy into developing this app, publishing an app, they were able then to generate revenue for their for themselves. And another thing then that we did was made it much easier to integrate maps into your app there as well. So that kind of quickly evolved and people loved it. And another thing I think separate to the platform was also the community that we had there, and that there was a lot of really engaged people, even from the very beginning, including myself there. And one of the biggest requests that we had from our users was, can we have this on iOS, please? We love this on Android. Can we have it on iOS? So the next thing then that we did, I'll skip to here there. The next thing that we did, is to release a version of of the platform for iOS. So it was something completely built from scratch, and it gave us a huge amount of freedom, and we got to learn a lot along the way. One thing that was kind of, I suppose, new or quite different about this was, can maybe move my mouse here, hopefully you can see it, was there was actually the ability to publish your app from directly within the platform. So you could just go through, and you still can to this day, go through a little flow when you have an app and you want to put it into the App Store, or you want to send it to Apple, I guess, for their permission and approval to put it into the App Store. There's a button there that allows you to just go through that as well. Another thing then is that in our classic platform, people really liked to download their projects and send them to other people and to re-upload them. And one thing we did to remove that kind of friction was to create a sharing component or a sharing feature. So you could just share the entire project as a link, and it would copy it directly into your Thunkable account. And because we were starting from scratch, it allowed us to, again, reimagine how navigation worked in the app. And so we started with these navigation components, and they were adapted and improved along the way. And it also gives us a chance to kind of modernize and to put in some new features as well. So the assistant component that you can see down here, that actually works on things like TensorFlow. So we were able to integrate TensorFlow from Google, the image recognizer as well from Microsoft. And these were all just drag and drop components. So it meant that it was really easy to get set up and to get started with these things. So as you can imagine, I guess having two different platforms, one for iOS, one for Android, and having one team of engineers wasn't particularly scalable, perhaps. So in 2018, then what we kind of did was we merged the two of those together, and now one Thunkable project you could create, and even from the user's perspective, that also meant that they had two different projects and two different code bases that they were trying to maintain. So in 2018, what we did was we launched Thunkable Cross, it was called at the time. So it was cross-platform, meaning that one project would run on Android and iOS at the same time. Also improved kind of the general user experience here, adding in a gallery of apps. So you can create a public app, it can be shared. It meant it was really easy to share them with other users. It was really easy to share it with us then for troubleshooting and for feedback. And another thing we did to improve the, again, the user experience in getting started was there's a little tab in here as well, which allows you to open a set of tutorials. So we've updated those tutorials recently. That tab is still there. And if you join now as a new user, you're actually presented with the tutorial, like the 101, the getting started tutorial there in Thunkable. So in 2019 then, to kind of bring you up to speed a little bit more, the platform got another bit of a visual overhaul there, more subtle visual overhaul, making it easier to use again by adding searching directly here in the components. So at the moment, I think there's 56 or maybe it's 65 components that are in there. And so scrolling, coming down and finding them can be time consuming. We also added in, so another feature that people really wanted was gaming components, and added in an extensive canvas and sprite component, and people are able to make their own games. We also added, again, like that, based on the feedback that we had from our community and from our users, what they were building and what they wanted included in their apps. We put in a Bluetooth component and a barcode scanner. So if you have a QR code or a barcode, you don't have to do any, you know, searching or looking up. This was possible. We had like a workaround where you'd have to go and connect to an API and get the response and then parse that response. But now it's just drag and drop. It's made much more simple by the fact that it's a standalone component. And then we always have pretty good support for images, but we've started adding in then more things around video and around sound. And yeah, around this time as well, I've got a little note there in the bottom corner for myself. We started doing more tutorials, and more engagement with our users on YouTube. So
to manage patients with COVID and intensive care, we obviously know a lot more about the disease and how people respond to it.
Okay, sorry, I thought somebody was asking a question there. Yep, so we had a series on YouTube called Thunkable on Air that we ran every week. And again, people were able to send us requests by tweet or through the community, and we would work on building their apps for them. So right up to the present day, so it's still a single project in Thunkable, but we've now added the ability to publish your app as a web app there. So here's a very quick kind of demo. So it means that a single project, your one kind of code base, can be exported as a native Android app, a native app for iOS, and also can be distributed then as a web app. So you get your own, it's like a thunkable.site URL, and then that's something that you can send via email or via a WhatsApp or whatever it is to anybody. And there's no, you know, waiting for approval of an app store. There's no waiting for your app to be published and updated and all that kind of stuff. It's an instant publish. And then, yeah, there was lots more features then that came out to make people's app development easier. So yeah, one thing I kind of glossed over there was in the beginning, it was very easy to test your app on inside of our kind of a sandbox app that we have. You can install it on your phone, but we also added the ability to do that in the browser as well. So that was a huge leap, and also a big time saver as well. And I'll make sure I demonstrate that in the demo in a moment. But another huge component, I guess, that we added just within the last week or two is the data viewer and the custom layouts for the data viewer. So we had, again, because we were building it from scratch, we were able to add in things like an Airtable integration. I'm sure lots of people in a no-code audience are going to be familiar with Airtable. So it's kind of a hybrid between a database and a spreadsheet. And there's lots of really interesting things there. But again, our community are, you know, keep us on our toes. And one thing they really wanted to see as well was Google Sheet support. So this new data viewer allows you now to take something from Google Sheets or Airtable or one of our own local tables, and you can transform that into an app. And that's our first proper no-code component, I think, because there's no logic associated with it. There's no blocks needed to get anything up and running. And as a teaser maybe for the next part, we do have a couple of features then that we're working on at the moment, and so we've launched and we started a new, remind me to show it to you maybe before the end, but we have a beta testing group or a beta testing section within our community, and these people are trying out, they're like on the bleeding edge, I guess, of what's happening in Thunkable at the moment, and they're helping us test out the new features and the new updates that will be coming after this, I think. So yeah, what I'm going to do maybe is just jump over to the platform, I guess, and have a quick look around. I don't know, is it fair to take a few questions on that part, Max, do you think, or do you want me to go through the platform demo at the moment?
Yeah, I think we should crack on, because I think there could be some juicier questions for after the build. But yeah, just no, this is really great. Keep going.
Gotcha. That's me there. Okay, cool. Let's jump into the platform here then really quickly. Actually, the best way to come to this would be to go to the website. So when you're joining Thunkable, here we go. Zoom share. Okay, sorry, I'm in a different tab. So when you're signing up to Thunkable for the first time, you'll come through presumably the Thunkable website, and you can use your Google, your Gmail identity to sign in. You can use your Apple ID as well to sign in. And then if you're using something else like Office 365, there's a third way of logging in with any email. It's slightly different to the first two, but yeah, for the most part, if you have an Apple ID or a Google ID, which I think most people do have, that'd be the one that I would recommend taking a look at here. So when you get signed in, you won't have any projects, obviously, to begin with, but this is your project page. So they're all collected here. They're all kind of sorted based on when you last edited them. And you're able to, for example, create this project detail page. And this is great then. It's like a little landing page that you could send to people, and they can preview it out in the browser without needing to install an app or anything like that. Another thing you can do then is you can sort, or you can filter here rather. So we can see if we have any chat apps. We've got a couple of them here. And yeah, there's different filters here, whether you've got public projects or private projects. There's a similar kind of section over here in our community projects as well. So these are things that other community members have built. You get a little view here of how many times these projects have been remixed and starred. So if you like a project over here, let's say on this project page, you're able to start a project. And then, yeah, as I'd mentioned then, one of the features that we launched was a couple of years ago was this public gallery. So if you're creating an app as a pro user, you have the ability to choose whether it's a public or a private project. And then essentially we have this gallery here with millions of public open source projects, and you're able to filter here. So you could filter by, for example, I could give you my username and you could find all of the projects that I have built and made public. You can filter them then by category. For example, let's find some commerce apps that are apps that have been tagged as commerce apps. And again, you could jump in there and you could have a look at their project page. And if it was something that you liked, you could remix it. I'll get into the screens and the modules and layouts and stuff maybe a little bit later on. But then, as I mentioned, we also have this data viewer component and a spreadsheet integration. So it means that you can connect to Airtable. It means that you can connect to Google Sheets, which all these ones are. And then you can also create local data tables or data sources for yourself as well. So I'm going to use this 100 Days of No Code sample project. I have it open in another tab, so hopefully it's okay with that. Great. Let me run through this really quickly then. So we've a kind of ribbon along the top here allows you to test, so you can test in the browser. This is the sharing feature, so you can actually share the entire project if we wanted to. If we want to put this in the chat, I can just send this copy link to everybody on the call, and you'll be able to make an exact copy of what I have here. So maybe that's a way to do that at the end. Making a copy creates like a local copy, so it's a sort of an approximation for version control as well that you can use there. And then you have the ability to download, so you can have your own local APK that you can install on any Android device. And then the iOS flow is slightly different. We'll actually email you a link, and you need to open that on your iOS device to install it. But again, it still allows you to install it on a single standalone device on a physical piece of hardware. And then this is what I mentioned in the overview. These are the publishing options. So at the moment, we have this flow that will allow you to publish your app or send your app to Apple for their approval. And you need your Apple developer account for that. The publish to play, that's not fully built out at the moment. So again, this will just download your APK. And then again, it's the same project. So again, we can try this at the end of the session as well, I think, and publish this as a web app. So I can paste in a link and everybody will be able to access that as well. Yeah, and then we have various different settings here along the top. So when you're getting started, you have on the top left here, you have your component tree, and that outlines all the different components that are in your app. The components then that you could use to build your user interface are down here. They're on the bottom left. So I'm gonna build a very simple UI here where we add a button into the screen here. We can do things like change the text. So we're gonna go view people. I'm going to build an app about folks that are in the call, I think. We can change, maybe we want to make the font a bit bigger. Maybe we want to change the padding and the coloring and stuff here as well. Let's make a red button here, but again, you can use your own brand colors and stuff like that. We can use images here. And yeah, this is very simple. So if I were to preview it, again, you can test as you're going. We can open up this little miniature phone here, and we can click on the button, but we haven't added any logic to it yet. It doesn't have any functionality, and so we want to make it go to the next screen in our app. So let's jump into the block section over here, and that will allow us to add some logic to the button that we've just created there. So I know that in the demo last week you'd seen something quite similar. So it might be worth checking out some of that as well if people want to go back and have a look at some of this block-based programming. So it's the very same Blockly here, but we have blocks that are specific to the mobile operating systems. So I've got screen 1 here in my app, and I'm going to navigate to screen 2 like this. So I've created that ahead of time. To create a new screen, you just add a little plus here, and you can add as many screens as you like in your app. So let's live test that again really quickly. The view people now should open up the second screen. And now what I've done ahead of time was I've created this list of people, and I've actually connected this to even Twitter as well. So I'll show you how to customize this, and it's going to open up the Twitter page or the Twitter handle of the person that you're connecting to as well. I might delete this entirely and start again from scratch. But all I have on this page is, it's called a data viewer list. So let's get rid of it, and let's do it again for demonstration purposes. I deleted the entire screen. So now there's screen 2. I want the data viewer list like this. And when you're adding new information here like this, you get an option you want to have quite so many of data sources as I do there. You get the option to add something from a local table, which is what I have here. It just makes it easier to share. You can connect to Airtable. So again, just a single address will connect to Airtable, and then Google Sheets, then you've got a little dialog that will open up. So it's the same as uploading or importing a file from Google Drive. You'll just get a window, it'll show you. I'm not going to open up all my Google Drive at the moment on a call like this. But what I've got here is what we have in our demo video is like a spreadsheet that you can make a copy of, and you can add that in as well. Excuse me. So I've got a pre-made one here. Let's have a look really quickly at what's happening. So I've got 2 columns. First column is called name, and the second column is called the image. And I've just grabbed those images from Twitter, from people's Twitter profile. I'm going to add in another one here. I'm going to put Max in. Hopefully I'll be able to find your actual profile here. The joys of doing things live. There he is. And yeah, there you are. So I'm going to copy the address, and I'm going to paste that in here like that. Okay, so hopefully that when I made this change to the table, it'll be updated in real time. And let's have a look. I've deleted everything. So yeah, let's preview it one step at a time. So all we'll do here is I have to. The reason I'm getting that is I haven't set any of the data bindings. I haven't said what these different things should be. So we could have just the name, we could have a name and a title, or a name and a Twitter handle, for example. But the option I've gone for here is the picture and the title, or the image and the title. I need to connect the picture to my image column, and I need to connect the title to my name column there. And now when I preview, I should see the images, and I should see, there's Max loaded in there. I don't think it'll do anything because I've started from scratch. But I'm going to add in those swipe gestures there as well. and we'll kind of build up the layer up the complexity here of this. So if you want to add gestures, it's literally as easy as flicking a switch. The default text is like left, so maybe we'll say tweet, for example. And well, it's Twitter, I guess. And then what we want to do is, well, we'll have to add some blocks to make this actually work. But to get the UI working, we've got Twitter for each person here theoretically anyway. And this is the one that will work out of the box. So we want to make sure that when we click one of those items, it'll go and it'll fire open Twitter and go to that person's profile. So in our data viewer, we have events here, we have options. So what happens when you click on the item, or what happens when you click on the left or right swipe. So let's add in this left swipe here. And we want to go to twitter.com. Maybe we can build it up one step at a time if you like. So this would be twitter.com, let's say. Let's make sure that that works. And what it'll do then is, yeah, okay, we need to put in our HTTP. So, and again, super convenient with live testing. It means I don't have to rebuild. I don't have to send it to my phone over and over again. I can just preview this directly in my browser. So this just brings me to twitter.com. Hopefully you can see it up there. But we'd like it to go to the actual users page, I think. And what we can do here is we can join together a couple of pieces of text. So we'll get twitter.com. Then what we're going to do is we're going to find the person's, we'll have to modify this a bit to get their actual Twitter handle. But if we go to their name for the moment, that'll work for Thunkable anyway. And we can pass in the row ID. So if I click on the second row, it'll find Thunkable is the name and it'll go to twitter.com/Thunkable. But it won't work for the other ones. Well, sort of, we'll see. So now this brings us kind of where we want to go. The other thing then is, so mine is @DonalO'Hanlon, but I've just put Donal here as the name. So it brings me to this other person who got on Twitter obviously before me, February 2011, @Donal. They want to swap usernames or your handles, get in touch. But what we want to do here is add in a separate column here. So at the moment we've got a name and an image, and we've got this third column here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my data. I'm going to put in Donald, I think. That's spelled correctly, and that's Thunkable. And that's, I'll put in you first, Max. There you are. That. And then I'll go back here and find 100 days no code. Get rid of that as well. Okay. So over here, that as well. Okay, there we go. So I think that's everything. And it's obviously, it's much easier to use when you're not sharing your screen with a whole bunch of people and you don't have people watching you. But I think that's everything there. And if we live test this now, I've got to add the logic to it. Okay, so that's not going to work until I add the logic. Now what we want to do is look up this third column. Let's rename that to make it a little bit easier to understand. So over here, Twitter username. Now what we'll do is when one of the rows is clicked, we will find the corresponding value from the Twitter column, and we'll pop that in here after the /. So we're just using this little join block here to join together the two pieces of text. And yeah, so the one that didn't work in the past was mine. So let's start with that one. And now we see that I've got a space or something there in mine, I think. I'm not sure what I have a space there. Anyway, that's a typo rather than the functionality not working. 100 days of no code because I copied and pasted, works fine. And Max, yours also works fine. So let's just fix up that typo. And I might pause for a quick drink then. So Donal O'Hanlon, like that. There I am. Okay. And then, yeah, the final thing maybe just in relation to testing is that this is what it looks like on the web, and presumably then while you're using this, while you're testing, you would like to see what this looks like on a device. So yeah, we have our own app called Thunkable Live that works on Android and iOS. And if, you know, it's a little bit awkward that I could have my phone here and I could be kind of showing you in real time kind of what's happening on my phone. It's very difficult to see, but it's obviously when it's just you and your device, it's much easier to see what's going on. And it gives you a better sense of what's happening as well. And it also has similar, like really low latency. And when you make a change in your project, you'll be able to see that change updated on your device in front of you. So you have a couple of different ways to test. You can preview it here in the designer at the design stage. You're able to kind of make a few different changes and stuff when that's happening. This is probably taking a little second to load here because we're streaming and we're recording and stuff as well. But you can preview in here. You can also, let's just try that again really quickly. Yeah. You can also make changes to this or some of these things as you're changing, as you're editing. So maybe they're not editable anymore. The button, oh yeah, here. So click on the button. No, okay. So we can also live test within our browser, and then yeah, one of the best ways to go about this would be to live test on your device. Okay, so that is in a nutshell how Thunkable works. Okay. Max, I'm going to throw back to you for a second there and yeah, see if anybody has any questions, comments, feedbacks. I've probably got faster and faster talking there towards the end, but I'm happy to go over any of that again if people want me to.
Thanks so much for that. Yeah, get some water in you. Yeah, that was yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And no, I appreciate doing it live. It's yeah, it's high stakes, high pressure, so no worries at all. But yeah, I'd love to just open it up now and field some questions if anyone has them. So just feel free to put your hand up or pop it in the chat, and we'll chuck it over to the Thunkable experts in the room. Oscar, come to you first.
Yeah, great demo. I got a few questions, but I guess my first one, when I saw you moving the blocks around, it seems like all the puzzle shapes fit. Do they automatically always fit? Or if I'm trying to connect one puzzle piece to one that doesn't belong, will it let me know that I made an error?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and the blocks themselves have got kind of smarter and smarter at detecting some of this. And I know John B has worked on some of it as well, so maybe she wants to add to some of this as well. But definitely from the perspective of getting started, at least, it really eliminates kind of like or reduces basically syntax errors, because you don't have missing semicolons. Let's say you don't have missing opening or closing brackets or braces in your code. So it means people are writing, you know, more valid instructions for their apps there. And yet to the second part there, so for example, if I go back to this really quickly, with the screen here, I could try and put in a different data type here. I could try and navigate to screen purple or something like that. I don't think that'll work, or maybe that'll work. Okay, so well, that's interesting, because that, yeah, okay, I know why that would work. But yeah, there are blocks then that will refuse that type of thing, where it's like, oh, it expects a piece of text, and you pass it a list, or you pass it a color or something like that, and it'll reject it, it'll kick it out for you. Or some of them it will connect, and you'll see, like I had there earlier, because I meant to delete the data viewer, but I actually deleted the entire screen. There was actually that little red triangle there, so it was telling me that there was an error there in my block. I just had to replace it with a new one.
Okay, yeah, it seems to make sense. I just was curious if things would like fall apart and the whole puzzle would like crumble if I try to connect the wrong thing to the wrong place.
Yeah,
so
like that would be really mean, wouldn't it? Like, yeah, you've put together 100 blocks, but this one is wrong, so we're gonna just throw all the pieces.
Yeah. I got a few more questions, but I don't want to hog up if other people have time.
Yeah, go for it, Oscar. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure we'll be okay.
Okay, cool. can you, all right, so I come from a motion design background and I'm really interested in Lottie. And so I'm curious, can you stack components on top of each other? For example, if I have, say, a Lottie animation that's just a little rectangle that moves across and I want to stack it on top of text, could I make that happen?
At the moment, I don't think you can. I know there's layering is possible with some of our, I see question mark there, as Darren done it before maybe, and John B was nodding. So maybe I can we?
Yeah, you can give the canvas component a try. So with the canvas, maybe you can have an image, and on that you can put a text too. So if you need more understanding, have you used Canvas before?
No.
Yeah, so you can just go to the docs. There's an amazing step-by-step instructions on how you can do that. But yes, you'll be able to do that.
Okay, it's possible, right? I mean, through Canvas, so it's just learning a new thing. So does that mean that, let's say it wasn't a Lottie and it was just a PNG image that has a transparent background?
That you can definitely do, yeah.
Okay. And then one last question about Lottie or animations. Can you have them, say, load at a specific time? So say on Webflow, on page load, it can trigger the animation. Or if I click a button, it can trigger. Does Thunkable have those kinds of triggers?
Yeah, I mean, when a screen opens, you can load the image. So it will load it. So whatever condition you add, it will load according to that.
Oh, okay, cool. All right.
You could have a timer running and have it open at a particular time. You could have a button or some other external event. Also have it load. And if it was like a loading kind of thing, you could have your app go off and fetch some data or do some number crunching. And then when it was finished, so you could have the on finished or on data returned event, let's say, you could also hide that animation. So yeah, there's, like John B was saying, there's a couple of different ways to do that, show and hide. Yeah.
All right, yeah, thank you. I think those are the main questions for now. I'll hand it off to somebody else. Thank you.
Cheers, thanks, Oscar.
Cheers, Oscar, great questions. Anyone else? Mark?
Yeah, hi, thank you very much. That was a great presentation. I appreciate your time. Just a couple of questions. When you, on your ribbon, you've got a download button to download a single instance. Can that be downloaded multiple times? So you could maybe have it on 2 or 3 devices without actually distributing it? Yeah. And just on to that, what is there a native sort of user sign-up process that can be added?
Yeah, so to go back to the first one, yes, absolutely. So for both instances of native apps there for Android, you can download your APK, and if you were to say, let's say, email it to yourself or whatever way you want to get it onto your device, I actually find it really easy to open the platform on my phone or on my tablet, and then just click download on the phone or on the tablet, and that way the APK is saved there. Right. But yeah, to go back to that, like, so it's really handy for different screen sizes or different aspect ratios, that kind of thing. And then the iOS is a little bit different because it's emailed, so you just need access to your email on that device. But again, most people would have access to their email, or you know, if you're you might borrow an iPad, let's say, to test out what it looks like on an iPad. So you just need maybe to forward that email to your friend, or whoever it is then that has the device. And then the second question, I actually forgot what the second part was there.
It's about a native user sign-up process.
Yeah, so two things, I guess. One is we do have a sign-in component using Firebase, and you can sign up with email, and that's super simple to get started with, and it's very well documented. So Jane has a fantastic tutorial in the community about how to use that and kind of how to keep it up to date as well, to allow people to like reset it and delete it and stuff. But also, I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we have a very engaged and very technical community as well. So Eddie, one of our community members, actually just this week released kind of his own version of how to add a Facebook login or a Google login as well there. So you can, again, because the project is shared in the community, that's something that you could remix yourself and have a go at implementing as well. So I haven't got around to trying it yet. I've had to read through the walkthrough though, so it looks like it should be pretty manageable.
Excellent, thank you. And just one more question: does Thunkable allow for offline data to sort of be synced when you're back online?
There is a device block that will check whether or not the device is online. And you could, I think, probably figure out the logic to, like, if the device is online, then synchronize or check with the cloud to make sure that everything was up to date. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's nice ways to store with that kind of like local table that we have. And then there's also cloud variables, let's say, that you could use to check whether or not you're at the current version or whether or not you're up to date. So out of the box, I don't think there's like a simple like click a switch to have it sync online offline. But because the blocks allow you to go pretty deep and pretty technical, you could add in the logic to just check whether or not things were up to date or whether things were synchronized with the latest version, let's say.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
Got a question, if it's okay. So I'm a teacher, and I've been using Thunkable for about a year, and I really love it. I haven't used it with my students, although I've done app design with other tools in the past with them, and I work at a K-8 school in California. And I apologize if you already talked about this. I had to jump off the meeting to help some teachers here, but could you say a few words about how Thunkable is being used in education at schools?
Yeah, so even from the beginning, like I say, with the origins and the roots there in MIT, there's very strong education roots within the company. Within teachers themselves, so we have a small community. I think you might be a member of the Teachers Lounge that we have. And recently what we did was we put together a collection of tutorials and resources, and we emailed that out to our teachers at the beginning of the year. On a broader perspective then, we have a lot of educational companies and universities and schools who use the platform for teaching. And again, to kind of go back to what we were saying with Mark there earlier, because it has all of the logic, because it has like JSON, because it has all the events in it, it actually lends itself very well to introducing somebody to computer programming. But like as we touched on in Oscar's question, you don't get those syntax errors. So you don't have that frustrating moment of like, oh, my code won't compile because I'm missing a semicolon at the end of a line, or I'm missing a closing brace or a bracket somewhere. So yeah, teachers really like it. And the other thing that's super helpful as well about it, I guess, is that with the sharing links that I demonstrated earlier, as an educator, you can create kind of a skeleton project. You can send it out to your students and you can give them a task. So it's like, okay, make sure that your app performs these kind of 2 or 3 things. And then because the projects are shared publicly, as an educator, you can go back and you can check their project page that I kind of very briefly demoed at the beginning, and you can check, okay, does it work? Yes or no. And then if it doesn't work, you can always look in there and you can give the student kind of feedback on like what works or what doesn't work. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's answered your question or if there's anything else you want me to touch on, but
yeah, no, that's great. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Anyone else? Jason?
Hi, yeah, thanks for that great demonstration. I've got a couple of questions. One is just around Airtable. So is that a direct link to Airtable? Is it cached at all? And if so, how often does that update?
Cool. Okay, I can answer that
sorry.
one. Oh yeah,
answer that one first then, because the other one might take a little longer.
Yeah, so the Airtable component then comes with its own blocks, let's say, so you can at predetermined intervals, kind of like John D was mentioning, so whether it's when the screen loads or when a button is pressed, you can have it go and fetch the data from Airtable. You could run it on a timer as well to keep it synchronized. And so for things like image, let's say, that you want stored in your app, they will be cached then until there's a new version or you go off and update it, I think, yeah. But if you find like an edge case or a corner case maybe where that's not behaving the way you think it should, then please let us know. Yeah.
And then the other question, I guess, is just I'm very familiar with Adalo, and I just wondered how you compare and how you would differentiate it, if at all, from Adalo.
I'm going to have to admit that I'm not intimately familiar with Adalo, unfortunately. So my understanding, I guess, is that we probably offer more in terms of the customizability, let's say. So I think with Adalo, you can kind of drag and drop and you can make a nice UI, but when you want to expand, maybe in the past anyway, it's been a little bit more tricky, let's say. Anyway, yeah, a little bit more tricky to add in that kind of bespoke functionality that you want. Whereas if you can kind of do it with computer science, let's say, if you can write a statement or a function or add in some logic to do it, you can put together the blocks, you know, to do that in Thunkable, and connect with third-party services. Maybe it's like Airtable or Firebase or something like that. So we have people that want to, yeah, customize the performance or the behavior of their app, and they seem to be able to get that then from Thunkable.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly looks that way. So yeah, thank you for that.
Cheers, thanks, Jason.
Anyone else? Oscar, feel free to jump in. Don't feel bad if you've got any more questions.
I got a question, or just to back to what Jason kind of said, and we mentioned that there's more customization, say, than Adalo. I mean, I've thought of using Adalo, haven't yet, but I like that idea that you're saying, the customization, and it just sometimes seems, or at least maybe apparently from different builders, where if things are, say, like only stackable, it seems that maybe people use it like, or they even use the images kind of like clip art. It seems like to me, like people are just like dropping, drag and drop, and then where it sort of falls, it's where it falls, or everything falls at the center. Are you able to customize or pin things to different corners, or offset them, or overlap things?
So, I mean, this might be a really great chance to plug the beta tester section of the community again. So there is a functionality, and there are a select group of users who are testing this at the moment for us, where you do have way more control in terms of about where they're positioned from left to right and up and down, but also then being layered, yeah, kind of in Z space as well then, on top of one another. So yeah, there's workarounds and stuff like that that we've kind of developed ourselves and that our community have come up with. But again, because it's so popular, and as you're mentioning there, coming from a design background, having that as something that you want to do in your app, that's something that we're working on at the moment. And yeah, if you send me a message or whatever, I can hook you up then with that beta version. It'd be great to get your feedback on it as well.
Sure, yeah. I'll send you a message later.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as a user, the drag and drop, the beta test version is really nice. You can literally just drag things into place, into a corner, into wherever you like. It's missing a little bit of the alignment features that the current version has, which I assume will be added. And you can specify an X and Y value, which is really useful in terms of design. I'd say the one big thing it's missing for me right now is the ability to nudge components by pressing the arrow keys. I'd love to see that added soon.
Thanks for that feedback. Yeah, that nudge feature would be a huge deal, even though I haven't tried it. But yeah, I can imagine it being a little frustrating, want to move things a few pixels over.
Yeah. So yeah, this week we're testing out the lines, the grid lines, and the alignment lines. So that should be out soon, and then I'll relay on your feedback in terms of nudging. That sounds good.
Awesome, thank you.
The keyboard shortcuts in general are pretty high on people's request lists. So. Thanks.
Any other questions for Donald? I've got some myself, unless anyone else has any. I'll throw some at. So I wanted to know. I think you've touched on some points already, but roadmap. What's on the horizon that's going to really excite no coders?
Yeah, so the big one, the most exciting thing I think for no coders at the moment is the custom data viewer, which is kind of the shiny new component that came out within the last week. So I just demoed the data viewer, and that's just our stock kind of cards or images or whatever, but you can completely customize the look of those. So changing the colors and changing the layout and whatever it is. So again, you have much more customizability there. But also the really amazing thing about it is that you can have the properties of that defined programmatically as well. So the demo that I've done in the past is where we're able to change the colors of little tabs or icons or whatever it is based on hex values stored in a spreadsheet or something like that. So you could, like that, you could have things sorted based on upvotes and downvotes. That's another kind of demo that we're working on at the moment. And this is being expanded and added to as well at the moment. So again, the community are great for getting fast feedback from. And one of the things that they're really looking for in relation to that is the ability to like add filtering and searching to that component. So that's something that will be coming down the line. It's something that we're aware of and hoping to add. As was mentioned there, we're calling it drag and drop. So that's one of these beta features. So at the moment you drop a component on the screen and it's the screen itself as the parent element, it knows whether things should be aligned to the top or to the side. Whereas with drag and drop, it's completely different. You're able to move things around anywhere you want in space. You're also able to layer things as well. So it gives you much finer control. One of the features I kind of didn't go into too great detail there was the ability to save an entire screen. So for instance, like that, if you had your sign-in screen and you wanted to reuse that in a different app, you've gone to the trouble of figuring out whatever the custom logic was, and you don't want to go and recreate all of those blocks. You have the ability to just save a screen. And then when you start your new project, you can just import that screen from your saved screens. That was one of those kind of tabs there. That was along the top. Yeah, and we have a couple of, I suppose, really interesting, really exciting features that we're working on in relation to making it easier and more rather frictionless to improve the designs of your app. I'm not sure if anybody else wants to speak to that or if anybody else in the call wants to talk about that, but that's kind of under lock and key maybe for the time being, but definitely within the next month or so, I'd say we'll be posting more about that, or maybe next couple of months.
Awesome. That sounds very exciting. Cool. And I guess I also, I feel like there's quite a few Thunkable experts in the room here. So I'd just like to ask for people that are just starting out, I guess it's an open question, like what are the key fundamental concepts beginners need to grasp to really get a handle on Thunkable? And what would someone's first 10 days, 15 days look like in Thunkable? How can they get up to speed in the quickest way possible?
Yeah, so there's a couple of great places for learning. Different people learn in different ways. I suppose it's great to have an educator on the call with us as well. They'll be able to tell us about different teaching styles and stuff. But we try to support that as best we can. So there's written tutorials. We have a dedicated tutorial section in our community, and we have some written tutorials on our blog as well. And then we have a pretty good collection, I think, of tutorial videos on our YouTube channel as well. So when you're getting started, we've recently kind of recategorized those and reorganized them. So there's like a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced. And then I'm going to give a plug to Darren, who's on the call as well. He has his own YouTube channel as well, but the Thunkable tutorials that he has there are very much project-based. So there's the brew-based tutorial, how to connect this API and how to build your own craft beer app. Then there's hacking the YouTube API was another recent one that he came at. So there's a very specific, you can start at the beginning and you can have this defined goal at the end rather. And then in terms of our own tutorials then, so within that platform, when you get started, the first thing you'll see when you create your first project is like a overview video of how the platform works. And that's all actually built directly into the Thunkable itself. And it'll keep track of your progress as well. So if you came back over the course of a few days, it'll be like, okay, here's where you left off, and you can continue watching from video 3 or video 4, and it'll introduce you then to things like the text-to-speech component. Actually, I should have done a better overview of all the components that were in there, but like a speech recognizer, text-to-speech, taking photos and stuff with the camera, and getting some stuff like that. So there, again, kind of like we went through in the demo, I suppose. It starts off nice and simple. It'll be like, click something and make one thing happen. And then we layered the complexity on there where it's like, okay, we want to go and look up a column and get a value and put it in here. And all of a sudden the complexity kind of builds and builds like that. So yeah, if that was somebody's first week or first 10 days in Thunkable, I think that's where I'd be recommending that they start, because the built-in tutorials have that blend, I guess, of written tutorials, keeps track of where you are, and there's also videos that you can watch as well at the same time.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you. Cool. Well, I'm aware of time. Unless has anyone got any other questions? Just as we've got the collective brain power of lots of Thunkable experts in here, before we wrap up. Nope. Cool. Well, yeah, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for giving us a deeper look into Thunkable. Before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to say while everyone's here? But yeah, no, just like to say my thanks to having you here and you're sparing your time for us.
Yeah, thanks a million to everybody that's joined us, I guess. Thanks to our supportive community as well, who, yeah, we're hugely proud of as well. And then also thanks a million, Max, for coordinating this and kind of bringing in people from the wider no-code community. It's been great to talk to you, and your questions have been really interesting, I guess. It's been great to get your perspective as well on what you want to do and what you think Thunkable should do. And then maybe just to go back to what I was dancing around there a second ago in terms of secret features, just had a quick check there, but in terms of making design easier for everybody, one of the things we're working on at the moment then is a Figma integration. So you could actually just have a Figma design, click a button, and it'll be imported directly into Thunkable, and you can start adding blocks and logic. So that's an exclusive, I think, for hashtag 100 Days of No Code. But yeah, that's the testing that we're doing at the moment is super exciting around it at the moment, and really, really looking forward to getting that into the hands of our users as well. So
amazing. Yeah, I saw lots of smiles emerge as you said that. So it looks like it's going to be a popular one. Cool. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for coming. And if you do want to check out 100 Days of No Code, yeah, just check our Twitter handle, which is at 100 Days No Code, or our website. But yeah, thanks so much again, and hopefully see you all on Twitter or at another AMA one day. But yeah, thanks so much.
Cheers. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.
Thank you very much.